Our last video walked through a PPPoE-based network using Radius, and in this video we're going to talk about a DHCP-based network, and you're going to see that I'm using the same account that we used in a previous video because I want you to see that we can layer all these things together. So I have Radius accounts. On this account I still have active PPP sessions, but now we're going to do a DHCP-based setup. So I configured a DHCP server in here. I'm using the same MikroTik that we used in the last video. That's going to be my DHCP server. And we're going to get some leases written. We're going to talk about how you can do dynamic leases. And we're just going to kind of run through a typical setup. So I'm going to go to my Network tab. And if I look at my Inventory tab here, you can see I have a piece of inventory on my account with a MAC address. And I could have multiple pieces of inventory. I only have one today. If I come back to Network and I go to Assign, you see I now have an option to pick an inventory item. So if I pick inventory item, and then I pick the item on the account, I now have an option to pick from a list of fields. So let's imagine you had a device on this account, a piece of inventory that had 2 or 3 different MAC addresses on it. I'd be able to pick the particular MAC address that I want to assign an IP to. I only have one on here, so there's only one in the list. And then I'm going to pick a pool. Let's pick my first pool. So now you can see this MAC now has this particular IP associated with it. And if I pull up my MikroTik, same one we used in the last video, you can see if I put these side by side that we've automatically written a static lease into the DHCP server for this IP, mapping it to this MAC address. So now whenever a DHCP request comes in from this MAC, we'll always give it this IP. So this is how we can do static DHCP, this is how we can do static leases. So if you always want the customer to get the same IP, this is how we do it. There's another way we can do this as well. We can do dynamic leases, and the way that works is I would delete this. So I'm removing that static assignment, and you'll see this has already removed it from my leases here. And what I can do is set up my DHCP server to deliver dynamic leases to Sonar, which will then store them as soft assignments, just like we have with Radius. So if we go take a look in the documentation, we go down here and look at DHCP servers, there's some descriptions down here of how to do this with dynamic leases, and we need to configure something on the DHCP server or build a bridge in order to deliver this data, but we have a little script here that we can use for MikroTik. So I'm just going to show you real quick how to set this up. If I copy this script and I go into my MikroTik, which I'm going to bring over here, I've gone to my DHCP tab, I've opened up the DHCP server. Let me expand this a little so you can see it. I'm just going to put the script in here. I'm going to edit these variables. So I would put my username, my password, and my URL in here for my IP address for my Sonar server. And what this does is it makes the MikroTik automatically deliver leases over to Sonar whenever one's given out. And what we would see in that case would be a soft assigned IP on the account with the matching MAC. So the only thing we need to make that work, we need to know who has what MAC address. And the way we're going to do that is by having it inventoried on the account here. So let's say, for example, you're a cable ISP, you're installing cable modems. Modem has a MAC address that always requests the IP. When you were doing an install, you would put the cable modem you're installing on the customer's account. And then when a DHCP request went out from that cable modem, it would get an IP, and that DHCP server is then going to deliver that back to Sonar. We'd have it here. That IP would then get added to the appropriate address list and that kind of thing. So hopefully that makes sense. One other way we can do this as well is with a non-inventoried MAC. So if you have, for some reason, you want to associate an assignment with a MAC address that's not in your inventory, we can do that. We can pick non-inventoried MAC. I can put in a MAC. I can put in a manual IP or pick a pool. We're going to pick a pool. That MAC's going to get added onto the account here, and you can see, again, that's already been written in as a lease on my DHCP server. So outside of this DHCP lease writing and receiving, everything here really works the same as it did when we were talking about radius in the last video. All these IPs are getting added to our address lists, and we're able to do things with those address lists like rate limit and do redirection and that kind of thing. So if I pull up my firewall here on my MikroTik, you can see there's the IP that we assigned, and it's been put on the active customers list as well as the Internet Service Residential list like we configured in the last video. So DHCP and Sonar is very easy. We can use it on top of Radius, we can use it on top of PPPoE, we can use it by itself, and by using the address list functionality we can really bring in a lot of different functions like rate limiting, redirection, and prioritization, and really anything else that you want to do.